Hey guys, how's it going? I guess this is going to be the start of my very first official episode, episode one. And the topic is something that I've wanted to talk about for a very long time. And no, it's not going to be a joke. Actually, you might think that looking at this title, it's going to be a goofy topic, or I'm going to start saying a bunch of comedic shit, which is fine because the idea is goofy, but I think there's a serious question that needs to be asked of the cryptid community and some of these stories with regards to Bigfoot. Some of these encounters that I've listened to, of which I've listened to probably, I can't even count how many Bigfoot encounter stories I've listened to over these past couple years. Different people giving their different experiences. Invariably, they all have their own descriptions. They go into lots of detail about the coloration, the thickness of the fur, its size, especially length of the limbs, its musculature, its face, its brow ridges, uh, even deep into its anatomy. But the old one thing they always leave out, the important detail that I've noticed that nobody ever mentions. So, what does this dick look like? Seriously. I mean, is Bigfoot out there wearing Speedos? It's standing in front of these people in a lot of these stories. It's got no clothes on. Yet I never hear any mention in any of these paranormal interviews or on these podcasts and ever hear any mention or even a hint of a description of Bigfoot's dick. Now, before I go any further into this particular topic that I've been wrestling with, I want to introduce it with a story. It may seem a bit unrelated at first, but follow me here because I moved to South Korea in 2006 to teach English. The people I taught were mostly like, it wasn't at for a school or anything. This was like a private company where um, people who were usually college students and people who are working for different companies, office workers, some professors and teachers. It was mostly adults. I mean, it was all adults. Because the kids would have like their own different schools, but these were people who were learning to, for example, maybe it's a guy who works for Samsung and he's got to go on a business trip and do a presentation in front of a bunch of these foreign business associates. He's got to practice his English skills. He's got to practice his English presentations. So they come to us, and that's what we do. That's what I did for a number of years in South Korea. Now, one of my very first friends I met there was a coworker of mine. He was a fellow teacher, and we would switch off classes. He was a Canadian dude, white guy. He had lived in Korea probably 6 months. He had been living there for 6 months when I arrived in 2006. So he was kind of showing me around. He was also kind of new, so we were both exploring together, and he and I grew very close. He told me a story of his where when he first arrived to Korea, now keep in mind this guy is a white Canadian guy. I think he was like a history professor in Canada before he wound up moving to Korea. His first stint when he first arrived 6 months before I did, he wound up teaching English in some bumblefuck ass town in South Korea where it's like mad rural. Everyone there is like farmers and shit. And I remember he was telling me how a lot of the people there had only ever seen other Korean people their entire lives. I mean, they'd seen white and black people on their TV screens or in the movies, but they'd never even seen one in person. Most of these people. And my buddy, that was his first place when he first moved to South Korea. Another thing about Korea that a lot of you may not know is that the common thing that a lot of people like to do there is to go to bathhouses. Now, these bathhouses are not like how you think, because they don't really have these kinds of places in the States, but it's just a big giant sauna. They got different areas. They have like food courts in the middle, so you could get like they have food vendors there. They have hot tubs and these heated pools, and people would, they would separate the genders, right? So there was like the a wing of the building and the women's wing, and everyone would just walk around buck ass naked. People, I mean, culturally, people just are just comfortable there. They're just used to it. This is like people go there their entire lives. Like it was not uncommon for like parents to go with their kids and like siblings to go together, and you just hang out buck ass naked. It's all good. Korean culture, it is what it is. So my buddy goes to the bathhouse there. Now, mind you, he's the only white guy there. He walks into the men's, I guess the hot tub or the hot pool area. All these guys are sitting in the hot pool, just lounging around, sitting back, talking, chilling out. Some are even like eating. And my buddy walks in with a towel and he's like, well, I guess I got to do it. And then he drops the towel. And then he told me, like, when he walked in, every guy in the room, mind you, these were like bumblefuck ass, country ass, old Korean dudes who had never even met a white person before. They lay eyes on him. They all like look at him at once. And then their eyes immediately go down to his junk. So the reason why I bring this story up is because for the longest time, I thought that the reason why people didn't bring up Bigfoot's dick was because maybe it was not visible. Maybe the hair in that pubic area is just way too thick, and then Bigfoot's dick is just way too small, and it's just kind of hidden in there. It's like got its own little built-in furry underwear. That's what I thought at first. And it wasn't too far out of the realm of possibility either, because I do know that chimps actually have bigger balls and bigger dicks than gorillas, even though chimps are smaller. And the reason why chimps have bigger junk is because there's a lot more sexual competition amongst chimpanzees than gorillas. With a gorilla, you got like one alpha gorilla and he's got his own harem, and he rarely ever has to like compete sexually. So yeah, gorillas are a lot bigger and stronger. They're the biggest and strongest outside of, Bigfoot, but they got small junk compared to chimpanzees, because chimpanzees, they're buck wild. They're trying to compete each other with their dicks. I mean, these chimpanzees are fucking crazy. So that's why I thought maybe Bigfoot being bigger might have a smaller dick, and maybe that little dick is hidden behind all that really thick pubic hair. That's what I thought at first. Then one day I had a very interesting moment that changed my mind. I'm not going to name the name of the show or any of the names involved or the names of the guests, but a while back, I was just in the chat room hanging out, and it was a show about Bigfoot. This was a while ago. No, it's not anyone you know. No, I'm not talking about Tex or Rob or Jason, so quit your speculation. But I remember in the chat or in the show, one of the guests was getting a little tipsy, if you know what I mean, on the live on the stream, and he started talking about Bigfoot's dick. And I in the chat was like, "What about Bigfoot's dick? Please do tell. Is there information out there?" I mean, I was legitimately curious because I've never heard any accounts after all these Bigfoot stories. Never heard a single account of Bigfoot's dick. I was like, oh, I was surprised at first. I was like, oh, Bigfoot's dick is visible? Then what does it look like? People thought I was joking, which I get, because it's goofy. I understand. I wasn't joking, though. I wanted to know. But what was real interesting about that night was the reaction from the other people. there were a number of people in the chat who were like, yo, get this guy out of here. Please don't have him back on as a guest. I can't stand this Bigfoot's dick talk. I remember this one lady was like, oh my God, please tell him to stop. I can't stand this. And people were like pissed off at this guy and telling him, like, telling the host, like, don't ever ask this guy on again. I mean, okay, fair enough. He was getting tipsy. Don't get trashed on a live stream. Rule number 1. You can sip, just don't be trashed. Rule number 1. But the reaction was interesting to me. The way the people reacted, and so I understood. It's not that Bigfoot's dick's not visible. It's that people in the cryptid community are uncomfortable with bringing up the idea of Bigfoot's dick. Now, a while ago, I'd say about 6 months ago, I was talking to one of my friends, again, who shall remain nameless, who is pretty well known in the cryptid community and who is also, I would consider a researcher who has experience out on the field, who knows, like, who's been studying this stuff his whole life. And I remember, just as a joke, I put out a meme on Facebook about Bigfoot's dick. And then, he messages me and we start talking. And he tells me that there are multiple accounts of Bigfoot's dick. The thing is, they can't be brought up on a podcast because, number one, most podcast hosts, they have to cater to certain guidelines, certain rules, certain code of conduct for whatever reason, YouTube reasons or money-making reasons, or just how they choose to be perceived, their reputation, whatever, right? They got a brand. Okay, fine. So I asked him, so wait, have you heard stories of people actually describing Bigfoot's dick? And he was like, not only have I heard stories, I've seen drawings. And I was like, please show me. Please tell me. And then he heard this one, he told me this one story that he heard from a guy who was like an older gentleman who saw Bigfoot. He came upon Bigfoot as it was like crouched by a stream. I guess it was drinking water, and then noticed he was coming, and it got up and it turned around and it faced him. And the guy described how, obviously, of course, he's going to be shocked and in awe and in fear of the fact that he's now face to face with a Bigfoot. But then he looked down, and then the next thing he noticed, this thing had like a 3-foot long fucking dick. So, if I were ever to encounter Bigfoot, I've never, but if I were ever to, this would be my reaction. Oh my God, it's a Bigfoot. I can't believe I'm seeing a Bigfoot. Holy shit, look at the size of that dick. That looks like a baby elephant tusk or a trunk. God damn it, I fucked up that bit. Fuck, I hate it when I do that. But you know what I mean. Right? If it was, in fact, walking around with this giant hog that's, according to my friend's description, almost reaches its knees. And Bigfoot's a big deal. It's a big dude, right? If it's got a dick that goes down almost to its knees, that is a giant piece, my friends. A giant piece. And if you were to ask me, Donnie, what did you see? And I would be like, holy shit, guys, I saw Bigfoot. I saw a fucking Bigfoot. I saw it. And I'm not going to say that I would go into the dick first. Of course, I'm going to describe the Bigfoot, right? I'm going to be like, it had thick hair. It was huge. It was jacked. And then after I get all the basic stuff out, I'm going to say the very noticeable elephant in the room. It had a fucking huge dong. It was ridiculous. And that is a detail that is worth mentioning because anyone who is anyone would look at Bigfoot, and if he's got that giant piece that, according to my friend and according to some other accounts that I've heard from other Bigfoot researchers who also tell me similar stories where someone tells them they had a Bigfoot encounter and they ask them, okay, describe to me head to toe, what did Bigfoot look like? And they go head to toe. And I mean, they really go head to toe, which means when they get to the dick area, they say, yo, this thing had a giant, huge hog. And we leave that out. Why? That would be a very noticeable detail. We'd all be paying attention. But I guess people are, I don't know, afraid to seem like they're going to come off looking stupid if they talk about Bigfoot's dick. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if you see a dick that big in front of you, you're going to take notice. So, also, what do you think Dogman's dick looks like? Do you think Dogman's dick looks like a human dick, maybe with like a different color and some fur on it? Or do you think it looks like a dog's dick where it's like a red crayon? You dog owners know what I'm talking about, right? When your dog gets a little excited, oh, that red crayon coming out. I wonder. Again, not a single description. So, for those of you listening at home, next time someone tells you a story of an encounter with a cryptid, next time you listen to one of these shows, and they're talking about these cryptid experiences, ask yourself the hard question. What does dick look like? Good night, folks.